Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I am Scott. It is the first weekly wrap up of 2024. Let's get into it. Now, before I start my weekly wrap up, which is not off to a great start number wise, but I think still doing pretty good overall, I want to talk a little bit about my goals for 2024. I don't generally like to set specific goals because, as I mentioned last year when I got close to 200, I feel like when I talk about something, I feel like I have to do it. So I don't want to say, I'm going to read 200 books this year because one, it's never my goal to read 200 books. And two, I don't want to force myself to do something that I'm not prepared to actually do. I would like to read roughly 10 books a month. Certainly can read more than that, but that is the goal that I have in mind. Do I think I'm going to read more than 120 books this year? Probably. But this is my goal. And also, the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, my average page count per book has been, I feel, somewhat low. 2022, I believe it was like 255 pages per book. Last year, I believe it was 288, around there. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but around there. Now, a large portion of that is because in 2022, I went through pretty much the entire Agatha Christie bibliography, which is generally shorter books. And I followed that up with P.G. Wodehouse, which again, generally short books. Whereas I did not read as many Wodehouse and Christie this year as I did last year, I still read 39 Wodehouse books and 6 Agatha Christie books. I will not be reading any Agatha Christie that I'm aware of this year, but I'm still going to probably be reading somewhere between 12 and 20 Wodehouse books. Most of those for the podcast, but I also want to finish reading books that I have not gotten to yet. So I want to average at least over 300 pages per book. So I have done some things to help with that, which I will talk about later. I don't know that I have any real other goals except I would like to read in some subgenres that I haven't read before. Last year I got into romance books, which uh, largely hit or miss. I do have some romance books that actually ended up on my top books of the year, but I have some that were also in my bottom books of the year. Same with extreme horror, which I generally had not read before. Had some in the, I believe, I'm not positive if any of them got into the top books list, but some definitely got into the bottom list. I would like to read different genres that I have not read before this year, so that's another goal. Other than that, no real goals except kind of what I will talk about later. But let's go ahead and get into what I did read this week. Now, I read many, many, many books this week. I just didn't finish many books this week. I only finished one book this week, which is Better the Blood by Michael Bennett. It is a thriller set in New Zealand. It is a book that I had to read from my family's book club. If you've heard me complain about this in the past, my family tends to lean towards thrillers. Thrillers not generally something I enjoy. for reasons that I will get into talking about this book. So we're doing the book club in a few weeks. So I finished the book this week. It is about uh, it is about Hannah Westerman, a police officer. She is also a Maori detective, and she gets sent a video, essentially, of a crime scene. She goes to the crime scene and discovers a body, and she gets sent more videos, and she has a connection in her past to why she's getting the videos. I won't get into it beyond that to spoil it. And it does have to do with colonialism in the past and what's being done in New Zealand even to this day. I will say that the messaging in here is pretty good. I just don't think the vehicle it was used to get across was worthy of the message. I also think that the author pulled a little bit back on the message and I kind of got that we got the politics of it and the balance and everything kind of at a third grade level. And I don't feel I got what I wanted out of this book. There are lots of things in here that bother me. One, there's a scene in the first chapter of the book, or maybe the second chapter, the first main chapter, because the first chapter I think is prologue, which is like 150 years in the past. That doesn't need to be in there, and you see that as you go through the book. Slightly spoiler. She is suspended from the case at one point. Don't worry though, because she's almost immediately brought back on the case. And the reason she is suspended is because of what happens in this first chapter. And everything that happens in that first chapter basically is just for her to get suspended. No other reason. And then to unsuspend her. And then it's pretty much never heard from again. I don't cotton to plot points that are like, hey, the only reason I'm here is because of this. And this book does it several times. She is married, or she's technically still married to her daughter's father, who is also in the police. They have been separated for a while. They just had a divorce. He is with somebody new. There's a situation that happens there. Why? Apparently only to add drama, doesn't actually have anything to do with what goes on in the novel. The murderer is named probably about halfway through the book. He's not really discovered so much. It's just basically, hey, this is the guy. He has his reasons for doing what he does. I don't think they're good reasons. I think that this is a very complicated issue, but it's not written in a very complicated way, and the detective makes choices in here, particularly at the end of the book, where I'm kind of like, but what does that do? What does it do? There are reasons why she doesn't feel good about being a police officer. Understandable reasons. But what's never really explored is what happens if she isn't a police officer. Because there's at one point in this novel where uh, she helps a native person who, if it had been a white officer, would have probably ticketed that person. The person would have got his license suspended or ended up in jail or something, and that would have made his life worse over time. But because it was Hannah who did it, at least at that point, he had a chance. So if she's not a police officer, is she really helping? Possibly that's the case, but it's never explained in here. Very, I would say simple solutions, but they're not simple solutions. They're just like, I'm doing this. Okay, but what happens after? And there is a second book coming, but knowing a little bit about the second book, I'm still like not getting good answers here. Also, she has a daughter who chastises her about her past and, you know, basically you chose being blue, a cop, over being Maori. And it's like, okay, your dad is white, and we see based on that one interaction that Hannah has with the driver that most white cops would treat him differently. Why do you never attack your father? I mean, I understand the one reason, because he's not Maori, but you know, she never, and she does that all the time. She's always shitting on her mom and holding her dad up, and it's just, and but the biggest thing is, as with most thrillers that I read, especially for my family's book club, the characters are not multidimensional. They're stock characters. They're tropes. They're stereotypes. They're not their own people. And I don't mind thrillers. I mind bad character writing. And that's generally what I get out of thrillers that I get in the book club. In most thrillers that I've read, I got to be honest, I haven't voluntarily read many thrillers recently because I get them in this family book club, so I'm kind of turned off them a little bit. But yeah, I and it. If you're a thriller fan, you'll probably like this. It gets excellent ratings over like Goodreads, Amazon, Storygraph, uh, all the places. Great ratings. Just I'm not a thriller fan. I'm a character fan, and it didn't do it for me. 2 stars. So, as I said, I'm reading a whole bunch of other books too. Some of them I won't talk about because I should be finishing them in the next couple weeks, so I will talk about them later. But as I mentioned earlier, one thing I'm trying to do is read more longer books so that I can get that average over 300 pages. So, one thing that I am doing is I am reading books over a long period of time. So, let me kind of tell you what that means. Let's start with a simple one that uh, this is for a specific area, but it is Uncle John's Weird Wonderful World Bathroom Reader. You got it in the bathroom, you got a moment or two, read a page or two. Over the year, it'll be like over 410 pages or so. So that's one thing. It's the after Christmas, after New Year's thing, so I'm already like on page 20. I almost didn't want to talk about it because this is me basically saying, okay, I have to read it now. And this isn't like Uncle John's where I can just like, okay, read this page, and the information on that page is just only on that page. Don't have to worry about it after. One of my things that I want to do this year is read Finnegans Wake by James Joyce. I've never read Finnegans Wake. I haven't read much of James Joyce. I read some of the stories in the Dubliners, I believe. I believe I picked up a Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man and read a little bit of it, but I know I did not finish it. So my plan is to read this. I have read the first page. I am going to have to go back to read the first page again. I have some supplemental books that are going to help me with this. I do see if I do finish this year, I will be talking about this probably in December. Unless I have some real interesting adventures in here, I probably won't talk about it between now and then. But I may film for it, but I probably won't show any of those clips until I finish the book, which I hope that I will. Another book. This is another book that I got for Christmas. Or this is a book that I got for Christmas. It is the Christmas Chronicles by Nigel Slater. It's a bunch of stuff about Christmas, a bunch of recipes, basically small stories and stuff about Christmas. It's like 450 pages. It's another thing like with Uncle John's where I can just read for a page or two and then go back to it. I think I'm only, I don't know how far I'm in it. I'm like 36 pages into it. So the guy kind of gets a little purple prosy sometimes. So I can see it being a slow read for me. But hopefully I find some good recipes in here, some good Christmas traditions, which I always love, of course. This is one little look at my tree before it gets taken down this week. So that's another one I'll be reading this year. The Complete Peanuts. This is for years 1950 through 52. I also have 1953 and 1954. So I have two books that I was reading. This one, I just read a comic here or there. I've actually read quite a bit of it. I'm on page 76, and it's like around 340 pages or so. So I might finish it this month. I might finish it in February. Then I have the second book, which I'll get to them. I of course would like all the Peanuts books, but they can be somewhat expensive. So eh, maybe wait, maybe wait for Christmas or see if they're on sale somewhere. Another Christmas book, well, another book I got for Christmas is Garner's Modern English Usage, which is roughly over 1,000 pages long. I just have been reading it here and there. I don't know if I will get it finished by the end of the year because that's between 2.5 to 3 pages a day. And I mean, it's not a dictionary, but it's kind of like a dictionary. It's kind of written like a dictionary. So I don't know if it's something I can maintain. But if not, I'll just continue to read it. Maybe this will be one of my books for 2025 that I finish. Started in 2024, sure. I would like to finish it in 2024, but I'm not holding my breath on this one. I think all the other books, with the possible exception of Finnegans Wake, I will finish in 2024. 40, a Doonesbury retrospective, another book I got for Christmas. It's comic strips, but it's like almost 700 pages worth of comics. I'm not reading this at quite the same speed as the Peanuts one, but I am on page 46. I don't see myself finishing this till at least March, maybe. I'm not rushing any of these longer books. So, and it's kind of nice just to enjoy them slowly. So, I'm also reading, I do have it in book form, but I'm reading on an app every couple of years. I read the Bible. I not, as I mentioned before, I'm not a religious person. I'm, let's say, agnostic, spiritually curious, but I do read the Bible every couple of years or so. I read some of the other religious texts, which I've mentioned before, and we'll get into. So I have a reading app. Read these, you know, passages for this day, this day. I'm doing it chronologically because I prefer it that way. Except I'm reading like one passage of the New Testament each day, along with the 3 to 5 of the Old Testament. So I'll probably finish this, I don't know, sometime in September, October, maybe. So I'm reading that, and I am reading the Big Book of Christmas Mysteries, which I have as an audiobook. It's many mystery stories set during Christmas time. And whereas the audiobook that I am reading right now, which is by S.A. Cosby, is one that I listen to when I'm driving, because dropping my kid off, picking my kid up, like that, or going to the store, or whatever. And I should finish that this week also. Uh, the Big Book of Christmas Mysteries, I kind of listen when I'm doing stuff at home, because you get like a 20 to 30 minute story, doing some tasks, get a story out of the way. I think I've read 3 stories so far. I don't remember how many there are, but it comes out to roughly like a 700-page book, I think. So, yeah, I'm doing my best to up the page count. And I'm also, one goal that I did not mention before is I'm going to be more willing to DNF stuff. It's a fault of mine where I sometimes can't let myself do that, but I'm going to have to do that. One, because I shouldn't read stuff that I'm not enjoying, which I had 2 books last year that I rated 0 stars, one book that I rated a half star, a few books that I rated under 2 stars. And like I rated 2 stars, the Better the Blood, but I had to read it because it's a book club book. But I'm going to, except for book club books, I'm going to try to not have any books unless I'm deliberately reading something. If I've gone completely insane and have decided I'm going to read 5 Colleen Hoover books just to do it for a video, yeah, I'm pretty sure, based on what I know about those books, which I have not read any of them, that I would probably not rank them highly. But unless it's for a specific video or something like that, I'm going to try to not read books that look like they're going to be under 2.5 stars. If it's not going to be average, I don't need to waste my time reading it. Am I probably going to end up doing that at some point, even beyond the book club books? Probably, but I'm going to try not to. So that is what I am doing this week. I will probably finish at least 2 or 3 books next week, if not more. But I'm trying not to rush things, and I'm trying to enjoy the books more rather than sometimes going through a war of attrition with some of them. So please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment, and I will talk to you next time.